Alright, that was a nice warm-up. Alright, so how many of you here are drummers? Musicians, at least. Okay, good, good. So, you know, lately for me, a lot of my philosophy, it changes throughout the years. And that just comes with learning, you know. The more I learn, the more things that, like, you know, I want to expand into. But I always feel that the most important thing at the end of the day is still serving the music. And what I mean by that, simply, is that whatever the music's going to call for, like, I'm gonna play it. And that means, like, not going completely overboard. You know, like with Coheed, it's very straightforward, just bang it out and just be the foundation for the band, you know? Because a lot of it revolves around Claudio and the singer, and, you know, the rest of the guys, they come in and they fill in and they add their things. And Mike and I, we have our moments where we lock in. And, you know, as you know, the previous drummer, Josh, they had a lot of moments where, you know, Mike and him were, you know, coming from this place where there was a traditional thing where the band was just locking in, you know, or Claude and Travis were doing their own thing and Josh and Mike would lock in. And so, for me, it was different, you know, because of the first band that I played in, or at least one of the, you know, first bands that had some success, a lot of the writing was, you know, kind of coming from the same place where the guitarist and myself were kind of getting in a room and we were hashing out all the stuff, you know what I mean? So, simply put, the most important thing you can do at the end of the day is serve the music, and if that means just laying down the simplest groove, you want to do it as best as you possibly can, you know, and you want to give attention to, you know, dynamics and that sort of thing. For me, in this tune, as you saw, like in some of the verse sections, I was really kind of just laying into a very, very simple groove, but I wanted to, you know, to be very powerful, you know? I wanted it to be very powerful. So it was all about hitting really hard, being really focused, you know, on just the backbeat, you know what I mean? So, like, this type of vibe, you know? And there's all sorts of things you could obviously do with playing, like, that kind of groove, just messing with the dynamics, like, obviously, how much to open the hi-hat, close the hi-hat, you know, like, you know, underlying pulses. Obviously, this is just a very, you know, simple groove of if you're counting, you know, kick drum on one, you know, snare on two. But for me, some of my philosophy revolves around, well, if you're subdividing notes, what else is below that, obviously? You know, it's not just, you obviously have 8 notes. And if you go below that, obviously you have 16ths, 32nds, you know, quintuplets, all sorts of things. So, like, you know, for me, the very important thing, I'm just going to tune this up a little bit, is to always, I always kind of have like a sub-pulse going on. I'm not just thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that 8th note type of thing. I'm also thinking 1 and a 2 and a, you know, that sort of thing. So for me, if I'm like trying to throw, what you're hearing is more this, but I'm also kind of highlighting like that 16th note underneath it. That sort of thing, so you can start breaking up like the 16th notes between, whether it's this, you know, kick, snare, hi-hat, whatever. It's still all right here, that sort of thing. You can get into like a certain style of playing, which is called linear playing, all right? Without going it too far off on a tangent, basically what linear is everything's kind of played like in a line. So instead of it just being on top of one another, the kick and the hi-hat hit, and the snare and the hi-hat hit, it's more of like, you know, like you would play a fill, that sort of thing. You could play it on the hi-hat. you know, so on and so forth. And it depends on how you phrase it. You can come up with limitless ideas, you know. So combining 16th note pulses and, you know, linear ideas, that sort of thing, you can get some tasty things happening if you want to deviate from this. So forth. So it's all a matter of, like, I wouldn't even say like just sitting with a click track. I think it's more about like just sitting here like with a hi-hat and trying to build like your own sense of time, because a lot of things nowadays, people are so quick to preach like just go to the click track, sit with the click track, play the time, you know, and a lot of people are really right on it. People have great time. But at the same time, I feel people are losing like the sense of dynamics. You get kids who are just, like, it's just all really loud. The hi-hat's way louder than the snare drum, and the kick drum is like not even existent. You know, you have to really listen before any of this machine stuff and the technology stuff to listen to yourself. You know, if you really have like, you know, all this stuff happening, then your groove and your overall vibe is just going to have way more going on, rather than, you know, some dude that's just all loud here. You can learn that stuff down the road. That stuff is easier to learn than having dynamics for how you're controlling certain things, you know. And another important thing that I believe is that we're always so like dependent like on technique. You know, what is that? Molar technique? Is this the push-pull technique? It's the Gladstone? What is it? At the end of the day, I feel it's important. I mean, you're going to use certain techniques that you are not going to be aware of to get a certain type of sound. Technique is basically a means to achieving a sound, you know? So if I like hit the side of like the rim, you know, of the floor tom or whatever it is, it's still a sound, and I'm not really using any type of technique. I'm just like falling off and whacking the thing, or I'm whacking, you know, the side of the floor tom, that sort of thing, you know. So I feel like those things are very important to learn, and you should learn them, but you should also be aware of, like, you know, what your overall sound is and where you're trying, you know, to evolve it to. Because if you get too caught up in the technique and everything else that this guy is playing and this guy is showing you, take from them and learn them, but also spit back your own things. You know what I mean? That's the most important thing, is that you develop like your own sound. You know, it's like when each and every one of you speak, you all sound different. And naturally, obviously, when you're going to sit down behind the kit, you all have a different way of looking at. We're all going to play the same groove in our heads, but the way we all view it is obviously, and hear it, it's going to be different because of the way you guys phrase it. And it's very important to explore that and to go with it, you know? And sometimes just disregard the rules. Just let it go out the window and just do your own thing. It's very, very important.